side. So let's just see if we.
Can you hear me?
Hey, look at that.
There you go.
Yeah, I just had to abort the computer and get on my phone and get outside.
There you go. Sweet.
Everything else was failing, so hopefully this will go well.
Well, sure.
Can
Hey,
you see me?
we can see you. We can see you. We got visual.
Okay, good. I don't have a view of myself. So I'm out here by the pool. I'm in Texas. It's getting up to 80 degrees. Another month we'll be swimming.
Look at that. Well, we're kind of jealous because we had a snow here today.
Yep, I know. I've got family up in New York, upstate.
Yeah. So, well, sir, thanks for welcome on. Hey, we have slides that we can put up.
I'm putting something different up right now, real quick. There we go.
Thank you. Thank you for coming on this call. This is something that's really dear to me, and I appreciate Keith DePlessis working this out so we could all come on. So thank you.
I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, we are too. So you've got an amazing background. Is started out as an Army food inspector on active duty for 6 years. And what kind of struck me is that you went on a humanitarian mission in Africa, and that kind of changed you, didn't it? So kind of explain.
That's right. Yeah, back in 1997, every year the U.S. and sometimes other allies, but usually just different branches, go to Africa. We went for 2 weeks giving vaccinations, like 24,000 in 2 weeks, meningitis and yellow fever. And they did a bunch of dental procedures too, but I had time to just hang out with doctors and said, I want to do something like this. That was 97. I was 25.
That's amazing. Were you enlisted at that time, sir?
Right. Yep. I got up to E5.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
And then so and spun you up to move on to a bachelor's degree in science from the University of Texas, medical doctorate, University of Texas Medical School, and then you went into psychiatry. Is that true?
Right. Yep. And that's where I landed finally, kind of specializing in PTSD and found my niche.
So, this is something dear to my heart because I've been in, I'm Cal Guard here in California. I've been doing search and rescue for 30 years, and I've been an entrepreneur for almost 40 years. And I want to tell you, the stresses of owning a business have been far greater than anything else I've experienced, even raising children, which says a lot, being a father. But it all combines. And so, I for years have really believed the stresses. A lot of people talk about post-traumatic stress disorder, and they think it comes from just the battlefield, or it comes from really bad situations. But, I've witnessed it myself in my own life and in my own psyche. Battlefields range. You can go out and be holding a gun, but you can also be holding a pen and stress yourself out. So kind of what's your take on that?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, exactly right. See, and the reason is because the body keeps the score. That's the name of a good book, because all of your life experiences, not just traumatic ones that be life-threatening, but your nervous system, it turns out, is the largest supercomputer we know of. And it doesn't forget anything. It does remember light, colors, sounds, events, and stresses. And so what typically happens in that space is that people carry emotional or energetic baggage from the past. We talk about it, we laugh about it. It's in our comedies, it's in our dramas. But few know how to cut the ties of the old baggage. And that's something I'm trying to learn how to do and doing well at. They don't really teach you that part in modern medicine very well, it turns out. So to answer your question, I would say that you, like everybody, have a baseline stress. It's higher. I think entrepreneurship is the healthiest mindset a person can have. And entrepreneurship is not a gambling disorder. You're betting on yourself, and that's always good, and with the potential payoff that you're going to be profitable and take care of everything you want to, without a guarantee though, but you get to make your own schedule, so to speak. So there's the payoffs there. And I tell my clients all the time that if there was any way they could have their own business, it would be good for them. Wow. So when you add that layer of stress to what's going on in the whole world, and millions of people, billions of people with the same fear. We haven't seen that in our lifetime. New books are going to be written on this. History is happening. And I think it's going to change the world more than the other big stuff we've seen, because those don't affect every culture. This does. So wow. We haven't seen that in our lifetime.
Well,
no doubt you're straight.
Let me ask you this. So, you know, I've seen a lot in my lifetime in the field. Sometimes I think on entrepreneurs, there's two key areas that I worry about myself, things that stress me out, and I worry about younger people in teaching them the coping mechanism. And those two areas are overworking and financial concerns. A lot of entrepreneurs simply overwork themselves. And is the body really made to do that? Are we as humans, are we supposed to just work?
Yeah. Well, you'll like this answer, because Indiana Jones says it best in Raiders of the Lost Ark. I recommend going back and watching that 2.5-minute clip on YouTube, because he's wounded, he's cut, he's injured. And so he's like the warrior that comes off the battlefield. But it's a comedy, and we need comedies to tell us the truth sometimes. The woman's trying to nurture him, and he's being tough and resistant, pushing her away. And she finally wears down his defenses, but she says, "You're not the man I once knew." And he says, "It's not the years, honey, it's the mileage." And so are the bodies made to take it? Yeah, the bodies are made to take so much based on your mindset and your genetics, right? People can handle different amounts of stress. The point is that the bank account of energy you have for your life is not a renewable resource. You have to do things to maintain it at certain points. And it makes sense that if you've got a decent life balance and something like this comes up, a global pandemic, economic recession, that the stress would be high. The adrenaline that comes with that is high. So there's less sleep, more pain, more physical pain because of less sleep. It goes together. So ankles and heels and plantar fasciitis and just aches and pains becomes the hurt because of the lack of rest. So it's mental rest, it's physical. And go ahead.
I'll be dang. That's, you know, it's already I'm learning a ton. And so how important is mind rest? How important is it a person kind of being able to take and get away from things every once in a while? You noted that different people react differently, but is it important for somebody to kind of escape and change things up every once in a while?
Absolutely. The key word is balance. And so if go and lots of work hours is your norm, think of that like having your foot on the gas pedal all the time, running your engine pretty hot all the time. And I like a lot of car analogies. I have a few of them I can share with you today, but that workload is the gas pedal. And if you don't have time to coast, then what are you doing? You're wearing out your gears and your mood shifter. So you have mood swings. You're burned out. And you get irritable, snappy at people because your gears of your mood are changing too rapidly. You don't have the emotional reserve. And it turns out if you stay sleep deprived or depressed or kind of withdrawn, or people have head injuries or dementias of other types in the brain, the exact same thing can happen, a syndrome of sleep deprivation. And you know, sleep deprivation is a form of torture, and they don't allow that kind of research anymore for a reason. But we get ourselves spun up. And many times I'll throw it in that some people don't realize they aren't sleeping very well. But the best way to tell is how you feel in the morning. If you don't feel like you're getting restful sleep, there's a few big reasons that could happen. Physical pain, you know, the mental unrest right now, and, you know, nightmares from adrenaline. Or even if you don't remember it, people are fitful, you know. Has anyone ever told you to talk and turn in your sleep or move? Those kind of things chip away at your ability to renew your resource. And little by little, you'll wind up kind of depleted, feeling exactly like that, where you have not taken enough mental time to rest, and it catches up with you.
I'll be dang. So, you know, a lot of people, I mean, I'm a person that I always thought I could take and really thrive on very little sleep. And I did something really cool. I just bought a watch that it happened. One of the side benefits of the watch was it tracked your sleeping and how well you're sleeping. And, you know, doctor, that helped me really it changed my opinion, because it turns out when I thought I was really sleeping well, I really wasn't. And so I started taking and trying to relax when I went before I'd sleep. I changed my habits. I didn't watch certain type of TV. I didn't read certain types of books before I went to bed. Believe it or not, over a few months, my sleep got a lot better. And guess what? As you said, I didn't relate it back to body pains and so forth, as you just said, but I did. Now looking back at it, I felt a lot better. So sleep is really important, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. Restores. So you have the sympathetic fight or flight response. That's the adrenaline, go, go, go. And then you have the parasympathetic, which is rest and digest. So that's when you slow down, recuperate. And if you don't have some kind of balance, then the nervous system gets burned out on the gas pedal side.
So what kind of things can happen when you realize those kind of burnouts? Are there bad things that can start happening to a human mind and a human body from those actions?
Yes, I look at it like a bunch of dominoes set up on the ground that go different ways. Have you seen those before? Because it can start with a lack of sleep or rest, like proper mental hygiene like this, if you're not taking care of yourself. And what will happen is, over time, your memory gets affected and your mood first. Plus, you're tired all the time. And you tell people you're tired, but after you say that every day for months and months, they don't really listen anymore. Have you noticed that? And so you're walking around with this pain of fatigue, but no one can connect with you on it. And so that's an emotional cut right there that no one's hearing you. And so there's physical, mental, spiritual, emotional reasons why it gets hard quick when you're sleep deprived or overworked, not taking care of yourself, because then when you don't feel good, what do? Especially the male machismo archetype, the masculine mass, we push people away, don't we? We go to our man cave. And if we don't know how to explain the man cave or know what we're supposed to do when we're in there, then we just turn into grumpy old people living alone. And I don't want to do that. And so that's why I'm having to take the social media and come out of my shell and tell people how I do it too.
That's amazing. So you just mentioned something that I'd love to hear, the spiritual side of things. You know, I've grown appreciation for other people's faiths. I went back, used the GI Bill, and got my master's degree in faith-based religions.
Nice.
It was really cool to see how different people, you know, me being from a Christian background, I got a new appreciation for people of all faiths. How important is spirituality for the human soul?
Well, most cultures in history have not tried to ignore that there is spirituality attached to the human soul. Most of them have figured out. Here in America, most recently, the Native Americans were the best at it. And then modern America and the wonderful Industrial Revolution, I love a capitalist economy, don't get me wrong. I don't want to change that piece. But you have to understand that much of this is a byproduct of our society and the way things are set up. Why? You have to have money to pay the bills. No one does it for you. The government's not going to hand that out. The entrepreneur steps up in that environment and says, I'm going to take that risk. I want to pay for the farm while I'm still alive. You know, that's basically it. Let's get ahead. Let's help families and set up nest eggs and trust funds if we can for people. Let's do it right as an entrepreneur. And that's the American dream. And you have to understand that if you ignore the spiritual side, then it's like having a bar stool missing a leg. You need four, really. Four: physical, mental, spiritual, and emotional. And so the way spiritual shows up when you have that problem is things don't seem meaningful anymore. Like, why go on? What am I doing? Worthlessness, meaninglessness, no future. There's no vision. There's no living out your purpose. So I define spiritual very widely, okay? Religion is an important one, but some people, it's meaningfulness and service. Like, I love the Bible verse that says that to God, there's only one religion, to take care of the widow and the orphan in their time of need. Wow. That's recognized as the one true religion. That's in the Bible, not this service stuff on Sundays. You know, that's not what they were doing back then. And so if you look at spiritual meaning, you're talking about fulfilling your purpose on the planet. If you're doing that some kind of way, or you're working towards it, check the box for the day. Good job. Yeah.
Wow, that's great input. You know, and it's funny because as I've opened my mind up and have gotten friends of of all faiths, Buddha, I've got practicing Buddhist friends. I've got friends that are Muslim, friends that are Jewish, friends that are Catholic. I've learned so much from them and how beautiful their faith is in their life, and I just think it's, I've got a saying that I say is that I don't fear another faith. I fear a man with no faith is,
Right.
It's a beautiful side. Now, you also keyed in on something is social pressure. Is what are we seeing nowadays? Because, I see it with young entrepreneurs. They're looking at a guy like me that's 54 and they want what I have. And they don't realize that it took me 30 years, of building this. Now I can help them get there maybe in 20, maybe 15. But how big of a problem is social pressure right now at affecting our minds?
Well, the key word is conformity. That idea of people trying to fit a social pressure so that they act a certain way, think a certain way, fit into their peers, and not be a hippie. It's like fear of the hippies is still there. And sort of like the new neo-hippie is to say that, hey, I have feelings too. I want to talk about some of this stuff. And so they don't talk about their feelings at work because they get laughed at. So conformity is probably the single biggest threat to self-actualization, being your actual self. And there's some good books out there like Brene Brown's TED Talks. It's the playbook for women, if you ask me. And I have a lot to learn because I didn't have a sister growing up, and yet she doesn't research men, but it's the only book in all my training that changed me as I was becoming a psychiatrist. And that was called The Gifts of Imperfection, letting go of who you think you're supposed to be and embracing who you actually are. So the answer to the problem of social pressure is vulnerability.
Wow.
Vulnerability. And when you say it was hard to do that for 32 years, you're being vulnerable and you're saying, hey, I didn't act tough and hard for 32 years. There were hard spots. I wanted to mention this at the beginning. That bio that you read of me sounds great. Thank you. I wanted you to read it like it was. And then to say that what the bio doesn't say is that when I got out to go to medical school, I did not get accepted the first year and I had to face failure and sit out a year. What that bio does not say is that halfway through my emergency medicine training, the program director pulled the rug out from under me and they turned on me and created a bunch of documentation and ran me out of the program. And I spent a couple of years not being able to do patient care. And it broke my heart. And I found out a lot about who I was, that I was a healer. And I have to be connecting with people to try to help them or I'm not going to be happy. And so I got into research, I wrote papers, and the day happened like this, where I looked like a nobody washout on paper. And yeah, I had a podcast and I had a couple of self-published journal articles that weren't that good. On one day, I got accepted into a psychiatry direction the next day and wanted to focus on military and specifically PTSD. And all of a sudden, all the doors and gates opened up and everything became so easy. I got an editor at the school that helped me publish a total of 17 different publications in 4 years. And all of a sudden my resume went, now I'm for real. Now people listen to me. But when I didn't have anything, the truths I'm telling you now are true back then. Nothing changed. So the good thing about loss is that you wear the world more loosely. And when you can wear it loosely and you can move and shift, then I think you can rise to an occasion like this and adapt your business model for what's coming in the future economy that's changing now. And that's exactly the kind of vulnerability you need to come out on top of this.
Amen. And I couldn't say it, again, you mentioned that, all the failures. I look through, people look at just the successes. I love the iceberg. They see the top of the iceberg. What they don't see is the huge mountain underneath that iceberg that's even bigger as the foundation it took to get there. And it all wasn't good. Let me tell you, one of the things I've got is, like you, no sisters. Brothers are quite a bit older than me. I grew up with no father. I grew up with a mom and a grandma. And I grew up with high demands on myself. Well, I pushed those demands on everybody around me. And that's not good either, because not everybody's going to have the same drive and ambition that I do, especially when you're raising kids. And so if you want to talk about hardships and reality checks, is that you're going to have them as you take, you're going to have those as you get through life. So what a couple of other questions for you. So a lot of people today is they want instant gratification. And when they don't get it, it seems like they start falling apart. Or if they don't, I hate to say don't get their way, because we're fed this constant stream of Hollywood that shows all these successful people very, very young. How do we get through to younger people that it's okay to take your time and being successful?
Yes, I think there's always a relationship for everybody to learn how to negotiate the future goals with what do I do today. And the best speech I ever heard on it was so simple that it programmed my brain at a young age, and I followed it too, and that was simply make a list. So something as simple as how you manage your to-do list makes a big difference on how to attack major projects like that one day at a time, like going to medical school. That's what I wanted to do at the time when I heard the speech. And it was just make a list, no matter what it is. If you want to go to college, if you need to get construction experience, no matter what the issue, you had to just make a list and go out and do those things one day at a time, one thing at a time.
I like that. It's the analogy of how do you eat an elephant, one bite at a time. So now I talk about triggers. Even in my own life, there are certain things that when the topic comes up, my stress level automatically goes through the roof. How do you control? Is there a way that you can get through these trigger points and take them from something that's destructive in your life down to where it's something that's controllable?
Yeah, can you give me like a more specific example?
Well, for example, in my own life, I'll open up a little bit with mine, is that, I took on a huge load, is that my wife was a stay-at-home mom for a portion of our marriage. We have 4 kids. I'm a blue collar dude. I made my living with my hands. The financial stress I put underneath myself by trying to accomplish a stay-at-home mom, raising a big family on my own. To this day, when stressful financial situations arise, I have anxiety attacks. I can feel it in my chest. It feels like a lightning bolt, and it completely destroys me for a whole day. It's overwhelming sometimes. Even all these years later, the simplest little pebble in my financial shoe will freak me out. So,
I'll give you the quick answer, and this isn't a textbook answer from my training. It's from more of my experience and what my patients have taught me since I graduated about 5 years ago almost. And that is simple emotion code session. You got to try this. There are techniques that don't involve you going to a counselor and crying out all your past pains again, because they separate the concept that there's emotional energy trapped in your body from those memories and trigger points. And there's also separately what's actually going on right now in the moment. So earlier when I was referring to emotional baggage, that's an energy baggage around certain fears of looking at the business bank accounts when at certain levels, because it brings back not just what's happening right now, because at face value, it has a certain emotional touch to it, but the past stuff. And so I think that this is the kind of emotional baggage that builds when not recognized and into what you could call a midlife crisis or emotional breakdown. People talk about nervous breakdown over the generations. But let me tell you what the myth is about that. Our society acts like it's good, you're better if you can keep that emotion stuck in your whole life. We brag about it. Hey, I'm holding it together, man. What is that? Who said holding that emotion in was good for you? It just wants to be left out. We've become kind of afraid to cry. And if you don't mind me talking about that for just 1 minute, this can help people because there's fears and pains, and we know loved ones in the ICU, friends of family. It's not close and direct to me, but there's emotional pain in life, and fears. And so I look at it like the entrepreneur has the strongest mindset on the planet. That's a plus. Your mental is actually strong, given. But that also means that because it's so strong, you're probably going to try to rely on your mental to fix everything. And there's 4 categories though. And so when it comes to things like this, you got to let yourself off the hook, figure out a way to release the emotional energy from the body, not cry it out with a therapist if you don't want to try it that way. But here's why I say that. I have a lot of people that either they avoid all the emotion or they cry all the time and can't get out of it. And the people that avoid the emotion are afraid that once they start letting it out, it will never stop because they just don't know how to do it. So I just say, sit on the couch, cry it out for 5 minutes. As soon as you feel it start to fade, get up and go do something else. Have a plan for what you're going to do, as a matter of fact. That's the time to be hard. Pick yourself up by your bootstraps. The last breath of crying episode actually feels good. It's a sigh. If you've ever finished it, it goes, oh, the last breath, and then get up. Get up. And go do something else, because what you're really doing is you're releasing emotion trapped in the body. It's not about your mind can't handle it. It's the body can't hold it anymore. And you just let it out and vent it a little bit and go on and do something else. A few days later, a little bit more might come out. Just keep moving forward. Don't fight it in there. Don't suppress it with alcohol. Use things like that to help enhance your life, not avoid something that's really not that scary.
Yeah, it's a great point. And to everybody that right now, it's a financial, in my life, I was kind of born into a tough financial situation. I always have a saying that I was born poor and never knew it. My grandma kind of kept me away from knowing just how poor we were. And
we have a lot of common.
Yeah, it was pretty cool, man. It was pretty cool. And so, but what happened was to your point, is through the years, I was a tough guy. I held that all in. I took it on the world on my shoulders. And what happened was finally it started coming out in really negative ways. And that was anxiety attacks and everything else. I find that when your exact point, and thank you for saying that, is if I can find somebody I really trust to talk my way through it, within 5 or 10 minutes, the episode's done, and it doesn't seem as tragic as it was 5 or 10 minutes before that. So how important is it to have somebody to talk to? And what do you look for? If you're not going to talk to a professional, is there some dangers? Is there some things you want to be careful of?
Here's the principle. We're not meant to be isolated in our thoughts completely. So for every area of your life, you want to have someone on the planet that you can openly share and discuss that with. And in a marriage, for example, or at a business place, you can't open up. Sometimes those things hurt their feelings, or they have a vested interest, and so you hold certain things back. And it's supposed to be that way. That's okay to protect people from pain. That's fine. That's good. But have somebody across the country, somebody you talk to, because the key word is emotional safety. That's a phrase, but emotional safety. And here's how you know if someone's safe to talk to. Have you ever had the experience that you meet someone new for the first time, and you sit there and you talk to them for a long time, and you say all this stuff, and it just comes out, and you get personal, and you're like, oh, and then it's over, and you go, oh my gosh, I didn't think I was going to say all that stuff. If that's ever happened to you, what's happened is you found someone that's safe to talk to. And so if you'll go listen to Brene Brown's book or her TED Talks or Netflix special she has, quickly you can do like a mental review in your head and think back anyone you ever knew, family or otherwise, anywhere they are on the planet these days, who was like that for you? Because guess what? If that's a safe person, you could call them 30 years later and pick up where you left off. They're not going to judge you why you didn't call them for 30 years because they're a safe person. It's a totally different mindset on how to pick people to talk to.
I'll be dang. Wow. That's really interesting. So, hey, I've heard the word financial post-traumatic stress disorder be thrown around in recent years because of the 2008 crisis. Are you hearing that within your practice? Are you seeing that with people that they're financially, is that going to be, I imagine this is going to hit some people pretty hard. What's your take on that?
Oh yeah. Well, anytime you have something so big happen, that there's always unintended things that happen, like someone could lose their medical insurance, and then someone happens to get sick and then gets in a car wreck. There's downstream effects to the economy and recession. The health insurance is one that pops off the top of my head, but how you think about it matters. The story you tell yourself matters most. And so if you have, I'm making this up, if you have a kid in a nice private school, and then a recession hits and you lose that, and they got to go to public school, how you talk about that in the family at the dinner table, how you carry that emotion in your body really, really needs to be separated from the past stuff and the baggage. You got to let that pass stuff. This stuff right now is bad enough. It's all hands on deck. You have to take care of yourself. You need to do emotional release and these kind of things, because the children growing up in a world like this need us to talk to them, engage with them, not eat ice cream and watch movies all night and avoid them. That's my weakness. I can eat ice cream, by the way, not avoid the kids, but
I love it.
well, everybody has their vices. And if you're reaching for your vices, you got to shift and move in another area, because this is too big. This is going on too long. There's too much uncertainty about the future to think you can just wing it this time. Don't do that.
So, and then another big question is watching, I found when this thing, finally hit America and it became a reality that it was here, is I found myself glued to social media and the news, for the first week. And finally, I felt that the stress was getting worse, that I was getting depleted of energy, and it just sucked me away. So how important is it that we take a break from those elements, from the news and social media, and kind of get away from it?
It couldn't have been said better than that. That's exactly what happens. The energy and fears and real pains out there do take our energy, and you only have so much for some day. It's a daily replenishing supply. So I call it an information diet, just like in the business space. When you get ready to sit down and write your book, right? Don't they tell you, hey, cut off all the TV and the radio for like a week or a month before that. Don't read any other books. Read a bunch until it's time for you to write yours, and stop and do an information diet and spend quiet time, get out by a lake, and let your ideas put everything you've ever heard together. That's the kind of brainstorming we have to do for this right now.
Yeah, I love it. So, you've got a lot of information. Is there somewhere people can go to follow you? And do you have a place where you put you recommended some good watches, TED Talks, and books and stuff? Is there somewhere where you place all that information at?
I sure do. I just got a new episode on the PTSD Academy.com. Right there at the top of the page, you'll see the 100-day challenge. And that's where I have a little one-page worksheet you can download there. And at the very top thing is the information diet I'm talking about. That's under the mental. And so my personal choice, I'm having to live out loud right now because of this on social media. The way I'm doing it, I'm going to get up a little earlier. I'm going to do my prayer meditation like I used to do when I was younger. I'm going to get my coffee and breakfast, even if I'm not hungry. I'm going to try, and I'm going to sit in front of the TV, and I'm going to watch the national news. And I'm just going to take it in the morning, and then I'm going to stop it for the day. And I'm going to take my walk outside with my dog, and I'm going to come up with, what do people need to hear today? And I'm going to come to my channel and post 100 days in a row, the 4 things I'm doing for myself, physical, mental, spiritual, and emotional. And that information diet is one of them. And I did it this morning, and I feel good about it. I feel good.
You can tell.
You got to take it in.
You're energetic.
You got to do something with it. And we aren't taught how to do that.
I'll tell you.
Not that we want to take lessons from the Chinese anymore, but ancient Chinese medicine principles still true.
No, very much so. I like the fact that you're telling people get out, take a walk. I think a lot of people have got pinned up energy, and I think that when you go out and you spend some of that energy, you walk it, you see nature. Even if you're in the city, go out and listen to the birds. I can hear in the background, at your house there, the birds going and stuff. And you know what? Just be human for a little while. Take this opportunity to slow down and enjoy yourself and enjoy the people with you. So, well, hey, thank you for coming on, sir. We sure appreciate it. I think that we're going to probably try to get you on again when this is all over, if you don't mind, because this is something that's probably, I've done a lot of self-damage to myself that didn't need to be done. And most of it, sir, you nailed.
Me too.
It was holding it in. It was holding it in, and it was taking on too much, and it wasn't being honest with myself or the people around me. So we'd love to have you back if you wouldn't mind, and kind of get through this current crisis that we're all facing. And then when we're on better times, we'll come in and we'll talk about some different things on better mental health and so forth.
I'm reading some of the comments from your listeners. There's some neat stuff in here, really good stuff. Age doesn't define success, making and achieving goals, perseverance. Yes, it's all that entrepreneurial stuff. The only thing we're adding today is that be proactive with your whole self, the physical, mental, spiritual, emotional. What's your plan for each of those? You take that entrepreneurial spirit to that concept, and you're going to roll right through this and have some vulnerability and creativity for the next ideas for your businesses in the future on the other side.
Yeah, I'll tell you. And hey, Chris, let's go through. Is there any questions, comments? Are you scanning down through them? I've got a couple that I'm looking at.
Go ahead and grab the ones you're looking at. I've been working on technical issues.
Cool. So here's what we're looking at is Ricardo says, what happens when for many years someone else makes you believe something they did for many years to you, and you ended up believing it, but later you found out it just wasn't the facts. What do you say to Ricardo?
You got two problems. One problem was the first thing that happened that you thought and you believed. That was a problem. That was a grief. That was an issue. And then you got this. You find out it was unnecessary or perpetrated or kept secret, family secrets or whatever the situation. That's a second problem. That's like a moral injury. It was wrong, right? Doesn't that offend your sense of right and wrong when someone lets you believe like this or that, like your parents were these people and you're 50 and they tell you, no, it was these people. You just don't do that to people. You're supposed to try to tell. But it happens for different reasons. And I'm not judging. I've got patients that have done it, but it's been done to them. We're all, there's no judgment here. But when you got a moral injury, you have to grieve that separately. You have to acknowledge it, just like those other emotional baggage and strength. What I do, besides essential oils, prayer, meditation, taking a walk out back, is physically kind of shake some of that stuff off. And like from the emotion code book, I might comb my head over the central meridian of my spine a little bit, all I can reach, and just say, I'm releasing that. I acknowledge what that is. I feel that. In a certain sense, thank your body for telling you what's going on. Wow. And say, it's gone. And set your mind and belief and faith that you just released that permanently.
Wow.
And then with some practice, that's what the emotion code is. It's really that simple. But there's practitioners that can help you in that stuff. And we may set some of that stuff up. I'm not certified in it, but my fiance is getting certified in it. But we need practical home-based solutions that don't have you crying everything out in the therapist's office to find out that years later your body still feels the same way because you haven't released the energy of it. So we can cut to the chase these days. Neuroscience and quantum physics are coming together.
Isn't that something? Well, I love that.
Yep.
I love that you said, get the energy out. And a lot of people might think that's hocus pocus stuff. But I can tell you from somebody, from a guy that, listen, if you're young, you got to, even if you're not, listen, it's not, man. There's a lot of stuff that go on in life that you're going to experience. And I'll tell you, getting that negative energy out of your body, believe it or not, we're all these circuits. We got all these circuits. We got all this, we've got all this wiring going through us. And I think that's why when I have my anxiety, what I call anxiety attacks, is that it feels like an electrical surge. And I learned it. I like
an impact.
Yeah, exactly it. But I let out a big, huge breath. When I feel that coming in, I try to go and exhale it. And believe it or not, but man, now I'm going to try to shake it out a little more. I'm going to go a little more aggressive and get that crap out of me, So that is.
Well, I would love to do this more. And I'm going to set up free weekly teleconferences to the public on these kind of topics where we'll do this same kind of stuff. So if you want to visit me over there, if you got time, jump on. If you don't want to wait till the next time we do it here, I just feel like it's my time to open up to the world. Let's do this for a few years, give them everything I'm going to download. And I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've done this before. I did Medical Mastermind Community, had 1 million podcast downloads, made $102,000 while I was a student. So
right on.
I'm setting up the same information products, subscription-based online training website for PTSD Academy. So I'm an entrepreneur too.
Well, I'll tell you, go over, if you're watching this, you need to sign up for that. I'm going to. I think that the more positive we can feed ourselves and learn to deal with our own emotions, our own stresses and so forth, I think it just opens you up, because when you're stressed out, you're not attractive to people. And I think when you open yourself up and you become healthy again, I think you just attract a better audience of customers and everything else. It sounds nuts, but it's true. From simple.
Well, we can talk offline later about how we can promote each other, because small businesses in America are really struggling, and a platform like this is awesome. And your vulnerable, authentic group of real entrepreneurs, we need leaders to step up. That's what Mark Cuban said. And when he said that, I was like, okay, it's time. And I did it. I came up with a 100-day challenge. Today's day 2. I'm going to get in there and post a video. I haven't posted anything on Facebook for years. But he said, leaders, it's time to step up, and I respect his judgment, and I'm an entrepreneur. So it's time.
Well,
Time for me, and it's time for us to do it together.
that's it. Well, let me tell you, sir, you've made me a fan. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for your service to our country. Thank you for your service to our humanity, just humans in general. Thank you for coming in and stepping up as a leader. And I'm excited to get engaged with you. I'm excited to go over and become a fan and watch you and learn from you and put a positive spin into my life. So thanks for coming on today. Have a lovely weekend. Enjoy the Easter, Good Friday. And we hope to see you again soon. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Take care, everybody.
care.
Talk to you soon.
All right, out.